Welcome to the Krypton Report. I am your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, and flying here in my cave of solitude tonight all by myself. So that's kind of, neat. If anyone's listening, last couple of little specials we had Superboy Solo and Supergirl Sayla, and then we had Brian's special episode. So we're back to normal, and I'd like to welcome back to the podcast here the lovely, strong. Don't test him, ladies. He's a good man. Mr. James Cole. Welcome back, James.
Thanks. Don't test him, huh?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Don't tease him. Don't mess with him. Just he's a good man.
There you go. No games.
No games.
Well, except for the fun kind.
Yeah. This is a family-oriented podcast, James.
I'm keeping it quiet. I wasn't talking about all those.
Like checkers, you mean? Like checkers?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Checkers, Monopoly.
Oh, okay, I get behind that.
Injustice 2.
That's a good one. Me and the wife play that. But hey, this week, no news. Really, I think everything it's just been held over kind of further discussion, but really nothing. So, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a lot come out the last, month and a half, so it does tend to slow down.
I got to read Batman, Superman, the annual. Did you get to read it?
I have it. I have not read it yet.
It's good. And all I'm going to say is it's a nice kind of fun play with Batmite and Mixie.
Oh, nice.
So it was a good annual. It was the kind of story to me that an annual should be.
So yeah, I mean, I got my books. Last week I said I didn't get my Batman Superman 12, so I got the annual and 12, and I haven't read those yet because I read Joker Warzone. I read Three Jokers, Book 2. My Young Justice, I think, from last week. So, nice. Superman Batman's coming up next, or Batman Superman. Superman Batman was the Jeff Loeb run back in 2000s.
Yeah, it gets very confusing when all they do is flip around whose name comes first.
Right.
So I was just looking to see what comes out tomorrow, comics wise, and there's a Swamp Thing #1 Halloween special.
I think I put that on my list.
I'm always picky because last year I bought the DC Halloween, and it really wasn't Halloween. To me, there's a difference between Halloween and their horror. They overlap, but just because it's horror doesn't mean it's Halloween. So I was not happy with my purchase. But anyways, Batman #100 comes out, which is supposed to be the conclusion of Joker War, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's on my list.
And then
it's supposed to be the conclusion.
The one that's on my list is American Vampire 1976. I thought Scott Snyder had finished his American Vampire, but obviously not. It'll be the first one that comes out with the DC Black Label imprint.
I've seen that. I was tempted to pick it up, but
it's a really good series, and
I haven't read anything before, so I
well,
don't know how it would stand. You know what I mean?
Don't, because each trade volume is a different decade. So you have to start with the beginning, and because it's Scott Snyder, so it's very well done. So that I just wanted to check since we don't have any news. I thought, hey, what comics are coming up?
Well, Deceased Dead Planet #4 is coming out tomorrow.
Yep.
So I'll pick up my movie, my movie cover, my movie variant.
I loved when they did that before.
So, well, they did horror movies with the first set of DC or Deceased. with the first grouping of books. And then since then, they've continued to do movie covers, but they're not all horror movies.
That's cool.
So,
but talking about covers, it's time to get into something, James. So we decided, based on a request by the legend, the living legend, the great and powerful one, the mighty one. If you're wondering who I'm talking about Mr. Magnificent Phil Parrish, also known as Nightwing PDP, or, Commander Cape, or Number One Lunatic. I'm just making these up as I go. We have decided to continue our look at comics and keeping up with us like a series, and instead of doing like a whole graphic novel or something at one time, if it came out in issues, we're going to break it down by issue. So we are pulling out that legendary series from 1986, post-crisis, John Byrne's 6-part miniseries, The Man of Steel. Woo! This is one of those, well, I almost want to say, like, this might be like one of our most controversial, like, discussions.
Oh, yeah?
Just because, like, maybe not for you and I, but maybe, like, feedback-wise.
Right.
Because this is a big deal. Like, people love, like, this is their Superman. And I get it, but we'll get into it. So,
Well, yeah. So, I mean, like, reading this, I was like, oh, well, this is where a lot of the Superman that I actually grew up with came from.
you think about it, Dean Cain's Clark is very of this time.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the big things, I grew up on Lois and Clark and the animated series, and then Smallville. So, a lot of aspects are pulled from this, because after especially Dean Cain, his version, because that was post-crisis. I mean, that's where his Superman was based on. His they hadn't rebooted the universe yet again at that point.
Mm-hmm. So, it's one of those things that kind of to take in a, thought process of what was going to happen with this character. So, had you read this before our outing today?
I did not. I have not read this yet.
I read it years ago, and I always had like vaguer memories, of it. Phil and I talked about it. We were looking at it. At first, we were, the first time I reread this issue is when Phil and I were looking at comparing this Man of Steel to the Man of Steel that Bendis was going to do, and there really wasn't any. He just kind of stole the title just for selling. There was no real.
Yeah, there was no connection. There was no connection.
I almost want to say was Bendis's. So this is the Man of Steel. Was Bendis's just Man of Steel?
I'm pretty sure.
So the makes a big deal.
Yeah. Well, it's like Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad, or Batman and the Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the only connection, that people could make between like this and Bendis's version is they go back to a story of how Krypton was destroyed, as opposed to an origin. Just they only go back to the ideas of the planet and its destruction.
I love the cover where Clark looks he's wearing some sweet like New Balance cross trainers, and I like the fact that he's wearing like a brown suit outfit instead of like a blue suit. But I had bought the 6 issue run during a quarter sale. One of the comic shops near me used to do quarter sales where it was a bunch of books from like the 80s, 90s, and 2000s where every comic was a quarter. And it was awesome because we would go in there and just find tons of, I built most of my Green Arrow Mike Grail run that way and other, older series and just fun books to have um, from the quarter sales. I missed them. Blasted new owner. Blasted. But yeah, you ready to dig into this?
Yeah.
All right. So, my cover on my issue, like I said, has the planet, has the ship launching from it, has Clark to the side pulling the shirt open in his brown outfit and cross trainers with the semblance as the Man of Steel. So first thing we're gonna get is what's interesting about this issue, just as an overview, is it's broken into like parts. Like I said, it's prologue, then part 1, then part 2, just in this one issue. And the other thing that's interesting is if I handed this issue into DC right now, they'd be like, thicken it up, make this one issue 3 to 6 issues. There's a lot of story in this issue.
Yeah, there is.
There is a lot of things that happen quickly. And in modern comics telling, this one book would pretty much be your 6-issue miniseries.
All right, this would be a 6-issue origin arc.
I mean, we start off on Krypton.
And I mean, it's only 33 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, normal comics these days are
22.
between 20, 24, 22, 24?
Yep. Digital sometimes, like, I think I just bought Man of Tomorrow, the newest. They just brought it back on digital. And it's a new writer, so I got the first issue. It's 17 pages.
Yeah, digital firsts are always shorter, though. They come out like weekly, though.
Yep. So we get Krypton, and this is where we get like our Kellex that we saw in Man of Steel. Lara is she's very interesting. The way that he writes the Kryptonians, the way they dialogue and talk, she's a little over dramatic, almost like soap opera Shakespearean. It's like they talk almost Shakespearean, but act almost soap opera-ish, even though this is a comic and they're not really acting, but over the top in a sense. We have a lot thrown at us in Krypton. We learned that they're like very cold, sterile society, which I've always liked. I've liked the idea that that's where Krypton went.
Right.
We have, when just sticking with Jor-El and Lara, we have at the end of this basically saying that, Jor-El and her were paired together and that he has what he has learned is called love for her. And that is a lot to take in very quickly.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was going to say they talk about, they talk about how the planet is and how, like you said, sterile and like emotionless as he discusses love. When she sees a image of a farmer on from Kansas, she freaks out because he's got his shirt off.
It is really weird that he pinpoints directly to Kansas.
Yeah. But how this prologue is titled From Out of the Green Dawn, and they talk about the Green Death.
Yeah, they talk about
across the planet.
Yeah,
it's like the planet's core irradiating and changing its minerals. Like the planet is becoming kryptonite, is becoming poisonous to them. So if the planet didn't explode, they would have all died anyways from radiation poisoning.
Which I actually really like that. because there's gonna be some things, and I say that like, yes, I have read it before, but I'm saying like there's gonna be some things in here that I'm not gonna be too thrilled about. So I really like that. It helps explain, the radiation of kryptonite and everything and how that affects him. So
I mean, they give you the history of Krypton. They give you a history of Krypton. They give you an emotional connection between his parents and the fact that they never even get to lay hands on their child. But then they also set up the idea of kryptonite,
which I like. Like I said, okay. So the big part out of the prologue here, okay, is that Jor-El takes Cal from the birthing matrix, okay, and he talks about plucking their child, and they talk about their DNA mixing. I'm trying to find the exact wordage he uses. Hold on. It's in here somewhere.
From the moment I was first shown your hollow image and told your seed and mine would be mingled in the matrix, I have felt an unknown emotion stirring in my heart. Is that the part you're talking about?
Yep. So, all right. So with that, this is the part I don't like. I don't like that it was the Matrix baby, the pod. I don't like that they didn't hold their child, and then they send him to Earth in the pod, so he's never actually born until he's on Earth. I understand that was a concept about making him a American citizen and Earth citizen because he's actually born on the planet, and that explained why his powers developed. I don't like it. And if you want to argue with me, anybody, please feel free to message me. But I'll tell you, as a parent, and the fact that like after my son was born, and I was holding him, and actually the night he was born, he was up and I was feeding him, and I ended up watching Man of Steel with him on my iPad because it was one of the few things I had on my iPad at the time. I saw the idea of the parent giving up their child much differently. And then considering the next day my son was taken from me to go to the NICU where I couldn't see him for a day and a half except through glass. It made me think about that, the fact of holding your kid and loving your child and then immediately giving it away and taking a chance on if it'll survive. The dialogue that they've put in things about will he be loved, will he be taken care of. If you watch, I think both Man of Steel and Superman the movie both have an interesting aspect where the father is talking about his physical attributes and what he'll be able to do, and the mother is looking at his emotional attributes of how he will be cared for on this planet.
Yeah. Like the Lara episode of Smallville, when he has his first memory and his mother's only concern was if he'll be loved on the planet.
Yes, that is a great episode. I have not watched that in a long time. I need to do that. But absolutely, and like I said, that's one of the things on here that I don't like. I mean, it's an artistic choice. It's considered, I guess, canon by now. Like that's his story, maybe. But I don't know. Then we get Jeff Johns, and who knows. But yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
There, I said it.
I mean, I think the idea of the artificial birthing is actually really, I think the idea of it and the way the society has been set up to that point, I think it's really good. I think it really fits. But I do think, like Man of Steel the movie, improved on this idea of Kal-El like being the first natural birth in centuries, that, opening up the world to, he wouldn't have had a choice being born the way they normally would. He would die on the planet with everybody else because of the nature of his birth, because of like he was like days old, if that, when he was sent off on Man of Steel. So I mean, who knows how the birthing and like how long it would take for them to be able to take Kal-El home. You know what I mean? Like, how does that all work on Krypton? Like, I just think that it was a much better improvement and a lot more emotional. So I like the combination of the two, the improvement they did in Man of Steel.
I agree with you. I like the blend. I like both versions. But yeah, in the context of this book, I'm not a fan. And that's my opinion. I think I have a valid opinion to things. And then we start chapter 1, The Secret, and it's Clark playing football, and we see him running and go Clark, all the cheerleaders, and hometown hero, good old boy, Clark Kent, won the football game. Coach is saying how he's going to go pro, pause a little, like, kind of thing, and Clark wants to go get a soda with Lana. And Paul wants to talk to him. So, Paul, and he's like high school senior-ish, I would say, here.
Yeah, they say something about 18 years ago. It's been 18 years since your ma and me last came to this field. So, yeah, he's senior. He's about to leave school.
Paul talks about, he, no trespassing signs, the nastiest barbed wire fence I could find, all that to get people out. And they basically, I thought this was interesting. They just kind of put like a giant lead thunker, over top of it because they couldn't exactly get it out. And there sits his ship. And
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool how they covered it up like that.
I agree. So here we go. Here's another thing I don't like. I don't like that Clark is like the hero. Like, football guy, like, obviously it seems like a lot of his powers must be a little bit more delayed, or, he's comfortable with everything. But I'm not just dropping me into Clark like this and being like,
scoring 10 touchdowns in a single game.
Yeah, like, I don't like it like that. We've talked a lot about this. I like when Clark is confident and good, but yet at the same time he doesn't want to stand out too much. And this is very much like, this would be so much attention on Clark Kent. And making a history in Smallville, and it makes Clark, he is Clark. He's not really putting on a facade. That's him, but I don't like the idea of Clark being that big of a deal. It's always more interesting when you have like this, like, Clark gets straight C's or B's or whatever, just, because to stay average. He doesn't want to draw attention to himself. And then this, he's 18 and his parents are just now telling him he's an alien. Not after he first learns about his powers.
Not even, they tell him he came in this ship, but at this point it's not like we believe you to be an alien. Like, that's another thing about this story is he's this old, he's 18, and then when when we go farther and he gets to Metropolis and they say he was there for
7 years.
Yeah, he's been on his walkabout of the world for 7 years. So he's 25 years old, and he still doesn't know that he's an alien. You know, I really, I really like the idea that, you know, he even growing up, he's still kind of lost. You know, he has to just accept what he can do. You know, he has to accept his powers and what he can do and help people because he can, before he knows anything else. I mean, I'm not saying it all has to be that way.
No, I agree. I get what you're saying. I agree with that. Okay, I can agree with that. But I still don't like that. Like, but he knows his powers and what he can do. But yet, Paul, like, now after this game is when Paul's like a little disappointed in you, son, about, you know, behaving on the field. Like, now at the end of the season, you know, like, not when, hey, Paul, I want to sign up for football. You know,
right? Yeah, because you can lift a tractor over your head with your pinky.
You know, and like so much of that kind of dialogue is like glossed over here, and I don't like when they make Clark out to be that awesome, because I feel like in himself he wants to do things, but at the same time he has a fear of being seen. But I do.
Right.
But I do.
Well, that's still kind of the teenage thing, and they did elaborate on that a lot in Smallville when they went back to the football thing in season 4.
Oh yeah. I mean, the way they handled it in Smallville is great.
Yeah.
We also had 3 seasons to build up to that, to see how Clark is, who he is, what he does, how he's adapting, learning to control his powers. I mean, one of my favorite episodes is the Mixapillic episode, because I love when he throws the football, runs, pushes Mixie, saves Chloe, runs back onto the field, and gets tackled before everyone knows it happened.
Yeah, I love that one too, because I think the idea is everybody's looking at the ball, and he moves so fast that, like, even in a blink of an eye, you couldn't see him.
Yep.
He's there and back. Because obviously the guy who's looking straight at him doesn't even notice in the heat of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
But I do.
I mean, I kind of, I kind of keep bringing it around to, like, Smallville and Lois and Clark and stuff. It's just the connections that I made with this book as to how they've developed Superman over the last 30 years.
Yeah. I will say my favorite though is the flashback. Right here, my favorite panel right here. Now you be careful, Martha. We don't know this baby came from Earth. He could become some kind of Martian. Oh, now you hush, Jonathan Kent. You've been reading too many of those science fiction magazines. He's as human as you or me. And I'm going to make sure that whoever those monsters were who shot him up in that tin can, well, they're never going to get their hands on him again. And he's like, Martha, I love it. And this is where we get the, and I can buy this, as like that fact that, they talk about after 2 miscarriages and 1 stillbirth, our friends were just thrilled as we could be for little Clark Kent. The idea of the snowstorm happens, and they were snowed in for 5 months on the farm, and that's when Martha gave birth. I'm cool with that. It's like, instead of him just always being adopted and everyone knowing he's adopted.
Right. That he's their quote unquote biological son.
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
It would make things a lot easier than, the adopting a baby who never existed. And, back in the day, like, kids being born, like my great grandparents, like, they don't even know his birthday. They don't even know my great grandfather who passed away. They don't even know his actual birthday because things like that weren't recorded, especially when it was like home births and different things like that.
Wow. That's pretty, I mean, that's crazy and sad, but cool at the same time, just because it is something unique. So on the next page, when they talk about Clark, going to school and immediately making friends with Lana. And like, if you look at him in that panel making friends with Lana, and then the one underneath it, he looks like he's in the same clothes, same age. And he says, "This just kills me because I have kids, like, everything went just fine until that day when you were 8. That they did not draw him to look like an 8-year-old child. He looks like he's 5. I know, because I have a 5-year-old that looks more like that. But like the running, like being trampled by a bull, that's cool, but yet, I mean, it's fine, It works.
I mean, it's interesting that his density, his body structure is that strong to withstand being run over trampled by a bull like that. But then it was probably, some years before, at least a couple more years before he could, like on the next page, lift the truck up or see through the walls, when he's a teenager, like, then fly.
Yeah, and we can assume that the bull is okay. Because, I mean, that's kind of what I'm worried about. Like, that'd be like the bull, like, running through a rock.
Yeah, I mean, if it was any older, I mean, that might have as well have been a bull running into a solid brick wall, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A concrete wall. But, as a child, like, I don't think, like, the strength was there, so, like, he would run over him like almost any other child. It's just his body density would allow him not to get injured.
And then, do we ever know what Superman's dog's name is? Because in here, it's Old Rusty. And then we know he had Shelby and Crypto. On Smallville, it was Crypto and Shelby. Here it's Old Rusty. And I do like how he's just kind of playing with the dog and steps back and it's like, holy cow, I can fly. I mean, that would be dope.
Right? Dog knocks you off the side of a hill and you're like, woo, take off.
So we're back and there's Paul and Clark in the rain. And they go back to the house and you told him, I told him, he told me. It's a great panel. It's very interesting because like all this just seems like it's an exposition dump because there's all this stuff like that we didn't experience. Like you told me all those times that I should never use my special abilities to make myself better than other people, to make other people feel useless. But that's just what I've been doing. And it's time to stop. It's time for me to face my responsibilities. I have to leave Smallville. But I have to do it in secret. The world mustn't ever know it's me. The things I can do. So he's leaving. And then we get chapter 2, the exposure. And now we have Ma and Pa looking a little older. Not too much at the table. And I love this, though. I love Ma cutting and making a scrapbook of things that's happened that they know was Clark from his 7 years. And then they hear something and they go upstairs and There's Clark sitting in his room. And it's interesting.
Yeah. Like he's gone this far, and I'm sure he's considered it, but he's gone this far without being seen and stuff. But spending time in Metropolis and then something major like this space plane crashing happens, like he doesn't have time to react. He doesn't have an opportunity to stay hidden. Like, he has to fully expose himself.
He just leaps, and I mean, I like that. You know, I like that he does that. And he's talking about how everybody wanted a piece of him, and you know, he does it, and he saves the plane, and it's Lois Lane that was on the plane. And
of course it was.
Yeah. And, you know, she with all these other people are after him, and he cuts back, he's sitting there, and he's talking about, I don't know how to deal with it. You know, and he's talking to his ma and his pa, and pa's like, I think I do. And then we get Epilogue, the superhero. It's just so weird, like how it's done kind of like that. And we see Maud, or sewing machine. And then, nearly done, but what about you boys? Have you settled on a design? Yes, it took us a while, but Pa and I finally came up with this. We made one for the front and one for the back. And there's the big shield. And I mean, it's cool, but it's like, where did they get this idea? How does he know this idea?
Yeah, I I was wondering the same thing, like where'd the idea of the S come from? Like he wasn't, well, let's see, what does it say on the front of that paper? Mysterious Superman saves space plane. So maybe, you know, they got the idea Mysterious Superman. Superman, hey, maybe that's where they got the idea for the S from. I don't know if further along in this series or in this run that the S actually comes from Krypton, because it wasn't on Laura or Jor-El's clothes.
Correct. I mean, you are correct. This, you know, and that's another thing. I like the idea that his symbol is his family glyph. Like, it's a Kryptonian symbol that actually looks like an S. So it works both ways.
So I do like the idea of families having that and stuff like that. I think they got it to a point because Superman wears it on his chest, and he's seen images. They had images of it. Like, I think it's maybe weird that everybody wears their family crest on them, like on their chest all the time.
Well, I mean, it just reminds me of like back in the medieval periods where knights and royalty wore their coat of arms. I mean,
right?
You know, the family coat of arms showing, like, you know, or like in Game of Thrones or whatever, like House Targaryen, house, like, you wore kind of something that symbolized your house and what lineage you are.
And then with the show Krypton, you know, they had the caste system.
That show did so much right of a way to blend all the different ideas and versions of Krypton that we've experienced.
Yeah.
And making them all valid.
Yeah, like, that was great. That makes it so, like, you can watch Krypton, and, I mean, even though you're left hanging and stuff, like, you can imagine that their version of Krypton could potentially round itself up, you know, pick up any of the loose strings and eventually go into being almost Superman from any iteration.
Yep. Now, this is something I found interesting. When Pa they say he's trying to talk about like creating the Clark Kent identity. Meet the new Clark Kent. See Ma with his hair slicked back and an old pair of my spectacles. All right, seriously, spectacles.
Slickered back, an old pair of my spectacles.
And here's my thing. I've always looked at it the other way. Like, Superman's hair is always slicked back because it had the curl that popped. Because if you look right below it, like, his hair's like to a wave, and there's the curl. And then when he's Superman here in a minute, I've always thought of it more as Clark's hair is messy and a little unkept, and Superman's is slicked back and straightened up, And, I mean, that's like every version if you look at it.
Yeah. Wind has no effect on Superman's hair.
Nope, because he uses serious hair gel.
It's like sand hair.
And then he's putting on the suit, and gotta admit, you were right about those boots, Ma. They had a nice swashbuckling look. And she's talking about how, besides your muscles, shows off your muscles.
In the let me ask you a question. You think in the 80s, people from, I don't know, say big cities or something, John Byrne, he's big name in comics, right? So he probably lives in what, LA or something like that?
New York, probably.
Where's New York, LA, something like that? Where did he grow up? Where, you know what I mean?
Isn't
like,
he English?
Does this, or if from there, like, is this what he thinks people actually talked like in like the country? Like they're almost uneducated folk.
Yeah. He was born in England. And grew up in England.
Well, I guess maybe all of us Yanks sound like Hicks to them anyways. I don't know.
I mean, it is a little much. I do like that the bottom panel of him kissing his mom on the forehead is like that classic Mother's Day DC meme that we see.
Right. Yep.
And then, of course, the last page is the iconic, "It'll be a job for Superman." I mean, it looks great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I try to put my mind back in that time, but in all honesty, like, there's parts I like, but all honesty, like, it's not my favorite, like, reintroduction of the character.
I mean, it was good reading it for the first time. You can see why, with the art and the origin, like literally from Krypton to the time he first dons the suit, how this would have been like the book back in the 80s. Was this 86?
Yep, it's right after Crisis.
Yeah. That this would be the book after that to definitively give you the, I don't know, one of the most popular versions of Superman. I mean, back in the time, like, this probably would have been really great. Now we've seen these ideas at this point done and improved upon. So, but this being the beginning of it, definitely, I think would have stood tall.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I respect that. I see what you're saying. I'm just not I don't know. There's just things in it that I just didn't like, and I feel like it was so much material, like, and so much stuff covered so quickly that, like I said, I feel like you could have made a couple issues out of this one book.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree in that as well. But, at some point, there was a lot packed in here, whether, it was written in a different time or not. There was a lot packed in here, but also they weren't written for, like,
They're not
like
written.
trades
Yeah,
now.
they're not written the way it is
Everything now is written to be sold in a collected book.
I mean, even though this is a 6-part, mini series, so there was an idea that there was going to be, a collection. So
Right. I think the idea, a 6-part series of introducing the origin of Superman and like in his first outings in as his personification of the character, just that it would have been like, okay, we got 6 issues, so there's a lot to tell, and let's get to Superman by the end of the first.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, that could have been editorial too,
I mean, yeah, you're right.
But I enjoyed it, for a first read through. I enjoyed it, and just from where I'm at, being this iteration of Superman spawned the Superman that I grew up with in different mediums.
Yeah.
And I can trace it back to this. It was a good read. I liked it for that. I am more of a modern reader, and I do jump back to some older books, but I'm definitely more of a modern reader, and so I'm looking forward to reading more of John Byrne's Superman, though.
All right. From Man of Steel, we're going to jump over to Man of Tomorrow. So we decided to go ahead with a new series that neither of us have watched every episode of. And we are going to look at the 2006 animated series, The Legion of Superheroes. And some background, this show ran for 26 episodes from 2006 to 2008 on what was Kids WB that was rebranded into like the CW for kids or Kids CW, which ended up ending in 2008. The show was originally developed for Cartoon Network, but they passed on it because they wanted a show about Superman because of Superman Returns. And so they got this show, which was kind of it's a Superboy show, but they couldn't, for legal reasons, call him Superboy. So they just made him a young Superman. I find it funny because the whole idea of Clark as Superboy and in the future with the Legion, I'm not a huge fan of. I was explaining it with Jania. It's kind of weird because in the future, the Legion is inspired and formed because of Superman and what he's done. But it's like Superman, the Legion travel in the past, get Superboy, so Clark is a boy, take him to the future. He's there for a while. He trains, he learns, then comes back to continue his career, thus inspiring the Legion. It's kind of a John Connor thing, But here we are. We're going to discuss it because it's a cool series that neither of us have ever really talked about.
No, I haven't. I watched a few episodes on DC Universe when it came out, but I did not watch the entire thing. So I'm looking forward to continuing this series like we did with the Fleischer.
We picked this one next just because it's something that neither of us have really much knowledge or like experience watching, so it's kind of like we're experiencing it together. I watched this episode with the kids, and they enjoyed it. Like, they were excited. Like, Sayla cheered at the end where he put on the costume. So that was awesome.
My kids liked it too. They said it looked familiar. I was like, it looks like Teen Titans, doesn't it? And they like the art style. That's got the anime type style that Teen Titans was done in.
It does have it's like one step backwards from like the anime. You know what I'm saying? Like where
Yeah.
Teen Titans has a much more straight up anime style, this one has like a little bit of a step backwards. So it's interesting that way.
Yeah. It is a similar art style. And they enjoyed it. I did notice something. They made an artistic boo-boo.
Oh, is it when he puts on
During-
his belt and that like it cuts and he has the Legion symbol on it? Then he goes and he fights, and then
Then they give him the Legion
Yep.
belt buckle. Yeah.
Yes, James. Yes, my man. It was cool because technically this would have been the first time I was really introduced to the Fatal Five, but because I didn't really remember it, the Justice League versus the Fatal Five was the first time I remember the Fatal Five. Like, really, like experiencing them. Even though Persuader technically was like a hybrid character on the first season pilot of Supergirl.
And he also did Chop Clark in Smallville in season 8.
Yep. But as far as the other ones go,
Just to bring that up one more time.
as far as the other characters go, I don't remember like them. I think Persuader's always used just because he has that axe that can cut through anything.
Yeah. They can cut through alien and vulnerable alien skin.
I do love when they take Clark and he's like walking around and he sees like all the images of him in the future, and it's like classic covers redrawn.
Yeah. Nice.
I did think it was cool, just like where we see Clark and he's talking and he wants to throw the baseball and kind of show that he's badass, but he pulls back and doesn't do it. And you're just kind of like, oh man, Clark, like you can do it, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you deserve it. So, I mean, I really enjoyed the pilot. I think a lot because I hate saying things like this, but like I'm not a big Legion fan. Like, I like the idea of the Legion, that's part of Superman's legacy, but there's never been like any characters I really liked in the Legion.
Right.
It's never been kind of my interest or like my go-to.
Yeah, I mean, like the only ones that I know of for the most part is Saturn Girl, because she's brought around and everything.
Yep. Saturn Girl and Bouncing Boy, Lightning Lad,
and
Brainiac
5. And now, I mean, Mon-El.
Is it Mon-El or Mon-El? Mon-El.
I don't know. I prefer Mon-El.
I'm just making fun of the girl that played Imra, how she said it. She made it.
Oh.
If you listen to her, she says like she doesn't have the pause like Mon-El. She says it all together like Mon-El.
Well, she was a weird choice for Saturn Girl, though.
It's because they wanted an oversexed woman and they couldn't get Megan Fox, so they got discount Megan Fox.
Yeah, because that did not seem like any version of Imra I've ever seen in comic, cartoon, or live action before.
Yep. It was like I said, it was they were like, we need a Megan Fox type. That's what people like.
Well, I think that's just like CW casting, I mean,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a cool pilot. We're watching it for this, so I'm curious to see where they go and what happens. There's like a version of like Superboy Prime or something we're supposed to experience later on, I think in season 2. So,
I think so.
It'll be a nice ride for the next 26 weeks. Holy shit.
Right? when you actually stretch it out, like, damn, like...
We should be done with this in time for summer.
Right.
To do Superman the Animated Series, which we're going to kick off in May.
Yeah. Can't wait for that.
But yeah,
I was actually kind of surprised that the Fatal Five was the pilot's first villain team.
Janelle
kind of being
immediately noticed that the voice of the Emerald Empress was Jennifer Hale, who like voices everything. But her most famous that Jania knows is Thorn from the Hex Girl from Scooby Doo. She was like, "Yep." She's like, "I know that voice." I'm like,
I was say her voice sounded familiar. Absolutely.
"Yeah, look her up. You'll be like, yep."
I know that credit. I know that credit. I know that credit. I know that credit.
But it was good. So, any other thoughts, ideas towards it? I'm like just kind of interested to see where it goes.
So the thing I'm curious about is his suit. He puts it on, and it's for fully grown giant Clark, and then it just kind of like shrinks and fits him.
Yep.
So I mean, that's not Earth clothing.
Alien fabric.
Yep.
Can we pause when he said, "Mom, I'm going to the future," and she's like, "Okay, future.
I'll be back in a few minutes." I love that.
Part of me wants to just skip ahead to the end to see if like the last episode is like him walking back into the frame. So
right, coming in from the other room, like, how was the future? Oh, it's good.
It's good, Mom.
Been there for like a year. Like, Clark, you look like you're taller and you're thicker, more muscular.
Have you been eating enough? Son?
Yeah, I've been gone for a year, Mom.
So
living in the future.
Living it up at the Hotel California. But all right, anything else?
No, I look forward to next week to watching episode 2, Timberwolf.
Me too.
And it's gonna be this better go over to. I mean, I'll have to buy the Blu-ray if not, but this had better go over to HBO Max because that could January. A lot of this stuff we expect the streaming to be off of this because it's going to change to the comic reader.
So that is the other thing that could stop us in mid-viewing. And then we'll just have to have like a, hey, we liked what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray can't be too much of a pricey buy.
Yeah, it's the whole series.
It's not like buying the entire series of Batman, which is like 5 volumes of DVDs on Blu-ray, or Batman Beyond, which is 3 seasons of Batman Beyond remastered to Blu-ray. You know what I mean? Those are a little more expensive. This is 2 seasons, probably fit on 3 discs.
Yeah, and I think is it a Warner Archives?
I'd have to look. It's it's in the back of all of these books.
I know, that's what's so funny.
One of the ads. It's one of the ads I keep seeing.
It might be a Warner Archives. I don't know. We will find out. So,
well, I don't know. I mean, they did like they've remastered all those shows and put them out. Like, you can buy them from Walmart.
Yeah, but sometimes they're cheaper as the. Like I noticed when I purchased like certain things, it was cheaper at first. I don't know. We'll find out. I'll go Walmart shopping. But
I haven't seen it at Walmart. I was probably thinking I'm gonna have to order it on Amazon or something.
We will find out soon enough. So remember, everybody.
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
Look at